Alright, let's solve some Leetcode question today. What a lucky me. So even after facing the 1 million, 3 hearts, so this is not easy. That means life is not always difficult. Even after the very darkest day, there is still sunshine in your life. So today's Leetcode question is 2169 count operation to operand 0. So we are given two non-negative integers, num1 and num2. That means the artifacts that's given in our function is always be the positive integer. And then in one operation, if num1 is greater than or equal to the num2, we have to subtract the num2 from num1. Otherwise, we have to subtract the num1 from num2. So for instance, if the num1 is 5 and num2 is 4, so we subtract 4 from the 5. That means we have obtained the 1. And then num2 is 4 and num1 is 1. However, if num1 is 4 and num2 is 5, after one operation, that would be that num1 is equal to 4 and num2 equal to 1. So what we need to do is we need to return the number of operations required to make either num1 equal to 0 or num2 is equal to 0. So let's get deep dive into one of the XML. So in XML, it is given like we are having two parameters. Num1 is 2 and num2 is 3. So according to this given integer, so what we can do is we need to detect, let's say it's like we have a 2 in here and then 3 in here. So what do we want to do? We want to subtract the 2 from 3, so which will left as the remaining 1. So that operation is considered the 1 operation. So next step is we begin the 1 and 2. So in that case, we have to reverse and then we detect 1 from 2. So which make us leave the number 1. That means both numbers begin the 1. So in that case, I will say 1 minus 1 is equal to 1. So this operation is a 1 operation, this operation is a 1 operation, and we just combine all these operation counts and then return the 3's, which is the answer in here. Right, this is for the HTML1. Then for the HTML2, which is pretty quite straightforward, since the two numbers given is the same, we just subtract num2 from num1. The operation is 1, which result as in output of 1. So to solve this, I think I'm gonna reuse the parameters in here since we don't want to. In Swift, there's one interesting thing is we are not allowed to update the variables from the parameter. So that is the reason why we have to use the extra parameter like num1 is equal to num1, num2 is equal to num2. Then we're gonna need to check like why num1 is not equal to 0 and num2 is not equal to 0. We're gonna make our loop run and up and running, and then we want the result in here, and then what we want to do is we return the result. So one thing in here what we can consider is, let's say we have a two given number. One is a number of 2, one is a number of 10. So what is the operation? So first of all, since 10 is bigger than the 2, so we deduct 2 from 10, which will result as in A. And then after we deduct that, so we have received 8 minus 2, which result as in 6. After that, 6 minus 2. And then, which will result as in 4. So then, 4 minus 2, which will result as in 2. And then 2 minus 2, which is equal to 0. That means we have done with our operation, and the total operation of this will be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how can we do that? We can simply do the find the remainder or like divide the 2. So which is 2 times 5 is 10, which will result in 0. But in case if we have a values in here is 1 and not the 0, so what it will be? So that will be operation of -1 in here, which will have a, we have a remainder of 1, and then we deduct that remainder. That will be operation of total will be the 6. Right. So in that case, what we can do is we check the condition. If num1 is greater than equal to the num2, what we can do? We can simply update the reset by finding the remainder of the num1 and num2, since num1 is greater than num2. And then next step is we update the num1 by finding the module instead of the remainder. So that will be the num2. And then else, that will be the reverse case. I can say that we copy this and then we just update the num2, num1, and then we're gonna update the num2 in here, and then this will be the num2, and then this will be the num1, and then we just return the reset in here. And then let me try and run and see how is it. So let's try to submit. Yep, that solved the 100%. And let me see how many people are online today. That's even like 1000. And then if I have to say like the time complexity, I think that will be the O of log minimum num1 or num2, because we are comparing num1 and num2, that which make us like minimum of num1 and num2. And then O of log, not sure, let's have a check together. Correct. And then for the space complexity, that will be the O of 1, since we don't use any extra variables in here. I think we can do the sum of the simplifications in here by using the something called like greatest common divisor. Maybe let's try. After we update the num1 and num2, what we can do is we can simply swap the num1 and num2 is the num2 to num1. Let's check it out. Alright, I think that is pretty much of it. Let's check, and the time complexity will be still the same, and that's the same for the space complexity. Alright, thank you guys, and let's see you in the next video. Bye.